pulling it back and taking a top-down approach to what's going on here, okay? There are numerous factors at play. There's numerous goals here, right? Donald Trump 100% wants a Venezuela-style situation. You know, he did the decapitation, and then all of a sudden he finds someone that's more pliant, and he gets to deal with them. He doesn't give a shit if they're IRGC, obviously, right? The problem is Israel wants an entirely separate thing here. And I tweeted about this last night, and it's really important. I'm going to keep stressing this point over and over again, because the reason why this operation is haphazardly put together, and the reason why it's become a spectacular failure very quickly, is because there are competing interests here. Not converging interests, but diverging interests here. Because Donald Trump wants it fast and easy. Donald Trump wants boom, 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 quick in and out. You know, bombing campaign, negotiations process with a leveraged position, much better position overall, and then a pliant state in Iran, that's going to play ball, and it's going to say, we're really sorry, whatever your demands are, we'll let you, build a Trump Tower in Tehran, all this stuff. Israel, on the other hand, does not want that, because Israel knows that, and I tweeted this last night, large majorities of Iranians in Iran do not fuck with Israel, including the people who hate the IRGC. Considering that this is Israel's war, it is an important part of the equation, and it offers clarity to the Amer-Israeli airstrike targets, which include opposition figures and moderates and border guards. Because if you're wondering why America and Israel are blowing up not just the heads of state, but then also trying to assassinate oppositional figures to the state, including a guy who's been on house arrest since 2011. The reason for why is because Israel does not want any real oppositional figure there. Okay, Israel wants a failed state. Israel recognizes that, with the exception of like Reza Pahlavi, right, which you would need to send in American troops to defend. If you were to plant Reza Pahlavi in power, you would need American troops to defend that, right? Because there's no world where a 93 million nation is going to welcome Reza Pahlavi as the true leader of Iran. It's not going to happen. Is there some support on the ground for Reza Pahlavi? Sure. But there is no next day plan here, okay? You would need to defend Reza Pahlavi with American troops. So unless Donald Trump commits to a puppet state and designing a puppet state and defending a puppet state in Iran with no guarantees of success, mind you, it's not going to happen. You can't install Reza Pahlavi. You can't just like say Reza Pahlavi walks in and he has popular support on the ground and they magically have a monarchy, they restore the monarchy, and then they do liberal democracy with a functioning monarchy on the side. It's not going to happen, right? And in the absence of that option, the only other option for Israel that is going to effectively destroy the Iranian state is just a failed state. Trump might want regime change, in air quotes, like in Venezuela, but Israel wants a failed state like Libya that will never threaten its expansionist ambitions again. Any real deal here for Trump means cutting out Israel, and that's not likely going to happen until it gets really costly. And right as I was tweeting that, Donald Trump gave another interview, this time to ABC, where he says the U.S. identified possible candidates to take over Iran, but they were killed in the initial strikes. He said the attack was so successful, it knocked out most of the candidates. It's not going to be anybody that we're thinking of because they are all dead. Second or third place is dead. And not only that, but they're even shooting and trying to kill oppositional figures as well. Like people who are literally arrested by the administration, people who are under house arrest by the administration. If you have an ambition to actually do regime change, you can't kill the guy you're trying to plant as your guy, right? You can't kill the people that you're supposed to put in power. You can't do that. It's insane. So this once again proves that there are diverging interests here. This is Israel's war. Israel's goals broadly are to create a failed state in Iran. America's goals are, or Trump's goals in particular, are glory and a quick in and out campaign, couple bombs, negotiations, art of the deal, as he has conducted over and over again. Like, this is what he did in Venezuela. He thinks Venezuela was a massive success, and he's coming off the heels of that success and quote unquote success in Venezuela and going into this Iranian operation after getting the worst intel possible from Israel and probably the compromised people within his closest administration allies like Lindsey Graham and whatnot, who are just telling him over and over again, you're going to reach glory. Israel's going to go in without you. You want a piece of this puzzle. You know how Israel is. They got the best fucking equipment. They got the best intel. We should go in with them, right? That's pretty much how this story was concocted. And I think Donald Trump thought, judging by what took place in Venezuela and judging by like what they perceived as the success of the 12-day war, he thought this would be going down very differently. He thought, we go in, we blow some shit up, we do a decapitation strike, and then we find a much more pliant figurehead within the IRGC to deal with, and then it's over, right? We can get all of our demands across, and it's going to be totally fine. What they didn't realize, or what he did not factor in, perhaps, was the information that his own generals were giving him. The CIA was telling him, don't do that. Don't do a decapitation strike. You're a idiot. If you do a decapitation strike, they already have a system design called like this decentralized mosaic. They have a horizontal movement within, they have a horizontal contingency plan where even if there is a very successful decapitation strike, they will still continue bombing Israel and continue to bomb American targets even potentially. Like everything that unfolded, Donald Trump was aware of. And we know Donald Trump was aware of it. You want to know why? Because the generals clearly leaked it to the media. They literally leaked it in the buildup to this campaign. They were like, Trump is not listening to us. We're going to go and tell the media. We're going to go and tell the media that like we might actually fail. We're going to wash our hands of this failure. And what this operation has shown thus far, and I know everyone wants a big W here, and I know like the Republicans are running around talking about like, oh, we did it. We killed the Ayatollah. We killed an 86-year-old guy. It's over. We've done it. Like, and if there's a new Ayatollah, we'll kill him too. Not realizing the consequences of these actions and not realizing what this is showing to the rest of the world. Number one, it shows that America doesn't either have the motion or the ability or the care to defend its allies with military bases. All of a sudden, if you have a U.S. military base and you have a regional actor that has a lot of smoke, you're not getting protected. You're not getting any protection whatsoever. You're basically becoming a missile sponge. That's number one. Number two, if they do not have the capability of protecting these bases, then all of a sudden it's a major weakness, right? Like either they don't have enough munitions and they have to expend them protecting Israel, or they just don't give a shit at all about the Gulf nation states, which are supposed to be incredibly important petro-states that are incredibly reliable and incredibly important allies for American capital. The other thing that this has shown is that if America went to war with a country like China in a proxy war, for example, right, they would get their backs blown out because the technology gap between Iran and China is insane. The technology gap between Iran and China is insane. The missile gap between China and Iran is insane. If there was any sort of serious battle, proxy battle or not, between the Chinese state and the United States of America, we're not making it out of that process. Their manufacturing capabilities are far superior to the Iranian manufacturing. All it takes is a willingness to engage in this. So this, in my opinion, is completely rewriting American hegemony and the American military power, especially considering that China also, as it stands, literally holds the cards to American manufacturing and the American munitions manufacturing side, considering that they have all of the procurement and refinement processes on lock for rare earth minerals and battery systems that are necessary for American national security interests. It's not even, it's over at that point.
President Trump, it was a roughly 9-minute phone interview talking about the war in Iran. Just want to give you the quotes. He said, quote, "We're knocking the crap out of them. I think it's going very well. It's very powerful. We've got the greatest military in the world." I asked the president about the fact that Iran attacked Arab countries in the region, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE. He said that was the biggest surprise so far for him and his team. Quote, "We were surprised. We told them," meaning the Arab countries, "we've got this." And now they want to fight, and they're aggressively fighting. They were going to be very little involved, and now they insist on being involved. He said of the Arab leaders of those countries, "I know these people, they're tough and smart." The Iranians, he said, quote, "shot into a hotel. They shot into an apartment house. It just made them," meaning the Arab leaders, "angry. They love us, but they were watching. There was no reason for them to be involved." That was probably the biggest surprise. You have to understand they were living under that dark cloud for years, meaning the Iran.
I'm going to be honest. It's pretty funny how leaky of a faucet Donald Trump is. He is such a messy bitch dude. You cannot have a commander-in-chief that's a messy like this. He loves yapping. Anytime an operation is going poorly, he does the full spectrum. He goes to ABC, he goes to CNN, he goes to CBS. He calls journalists personally to be like, listen, Drake, let me tell you something, okay? It's going great. I love the situation. Iranian attacks have been very successful. They are doing a really good job. Let me tell you, but we're doing a good job too. Everyone's doing a great job. Like, what the They've basically told all the Gulf states that your bases are bullet sponges. Your bases are missile sponges. We are just invested in protecting Israel. We don't even care about protecting our own troops inside of the Gulf nation states. We don't care about anything but Israel. M Israel high, M Israel high, M Israel high. That's literally what the lesson is here. Now, of course, these guys are still, they can get pissed off all they want, but it's still Big Daddy America, right? But here, look, you got a Saudi official on Al Jazeera. American defense is focused on Israel without the Gulf states that host many of the military bases. And the irony, of course, this guy's not a Saudi official. Okay, whatever. Host many of the military bases. There's no doubt in my assessment, or I believe that there is, let's say, a kind of resentment towards the ally or the partner if we describe it, he's a Saudi commentator, to the American partner who focuses on Israel's security and Israel's stability without concern for the defense needs of the Arab Gulf states, which are today being subjected to Iranian strikes without American effort. Also, it doesn't matter if Saudi analyst is not going to go on Al Jazeera and say something that the Saudi government doesn't believe. Like, what are we talking about? It makes sense. They're pissed off because they're like, dude, you let Israel strike us in Doha, right? You let Israel strike Doha. Israel killed Qatari nationals in Doha. It was ridiculous. And then on top of that, now all of these bases are missile sponges. You don't even have protections on these bases. What the are you doing? Ironically enough, what is really interesting about this process also is that when America let go of their own bases and turned them into missile sponges and Shahed drone sponges in particular, what they ended up doing was also harm Israel's defenses as well. I don't know what kind of communication exists, but like the early advanced warning systems, the radar towers that Iran took out probably also play a role in the Iron Dome's defenses not being as good, because the entire region, all of the American bases and all of the American early advanced warning systems that exist in the region that have now been blown up actually reduce the success rating in the interceptions that Israel can conduct. And that's part of the reason why you're seeing more and more of these Iranian missiles fall on Tel Aviv. So it's not like Iran is blowing up the Gulf bases for no reason. They're not just like blowing up the Gulf bases because they're pissed off at the Gulf for allowing the American bases to exist on their soil. They're blowing it up for a very real purpose. Now, the question remains, I think the Israeli side here, which is totally guiding this entire process, this military quagmire, they know how to manipulate Trump really well. They know how to manipulate Trump very well. They're exceptional at manipulating Donald Trump because Trump is very malleable. He's so easily persuaded, especially when he thinks someone is like brilliant, you know what I mean? And he clearly thinks like, oh, the Israelis, they got the best intel. They're really, really smart. He doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu personally that much, but Benjamin Netanyahu can basically tell him like, no, you don't understand. You will be glorified. Like, you will be remembered as a hero that finally toppled the Iranian regime. Come on, think about this, right? And then Donald Trump believes him because he's a idiot. And all of the other pedophiles in his corner are, they've been salivating at the prospect of this no matter what the cost is. And basically what's going on here is clearly that Israel knows that they can just, once they committed Donald Trump to this process, he's not going to pull out with egg on his face. They committed Donald Trump to blowing up Iran, and now he's stuck. That's it. He's stuck in this military campaign that he wanted to get out of with a swift exit. He thought he could get a better leverage negotiation position. He was an idiot, and the Israelis lied to him, or he's compromised by Israel. I mean, look at the Epstein files. I don't know. But like, regardless, he clearly doesn't care enough. He clearly doesn't care enough about anything beyond like what he could have gotten as far as like a good deal from Iran. Decapitation strike, good deal from Iran. So now when Donald Trump eventually realizes in and around like by the end of this week, when Donald Trump eventually realizes that there is no perfect destabilization initiative, when he realizes that like this is not going to be fast and easy and that Iran does have hands, when he realizes that, what does he do? Does he commit more assets? Does he actually commit a more aggressive response to Iran? Does he commit to blowing up the entire country? How much longer can he go? Will it be appropriate if oil barrels are $150 a barrel? Will that be good? There's also the other side of the story, the benefits that this has for, let's say you close the Strait of Hormuz. A lot of the oil that goes to India and a lot of the oil that goes to China travel through the Strait of Hormuz. It's like most of the Gulf states. Some of them go through the Red Sea, but that's a marginal amount of oil that's passing through the Red Sea as opposed to the Strait of Hormuz. Almost all of the oil for all of the GCC states, including Saudi Arabia, passed through the Strait of Hormuz. And now that Iran is talking about closing the Strait of Hormuz, all of a sudden that's going to skyrocket the oil prices. How do you believe things end up at the end of this conflict? Not good, no matter what. Like I said, the best case scenario out of all of the devastating options is that the IRGC pulls the country together and it keeps some semblance of stability internally. They're able to purge any sort of intervention that's happening on the ground from Kurdish militias passing through the Iraqi border or ISIS or anything like that, while simultaneously continuing to punish American assets in the region, continue to punish Israel as well. And it gets so costly that both Trump's popular base of support in America falls apart and his popularity craters to a degree where he has to react differently, or they continue engaging in this, hurting economic output so much in the region, specifically the amount of oil that can pass through the Strait of Hormuz, so much so that Trump starts getting boss calls from the likes of, the petro-capitalists. And they tell Trump, you need to figure this shit. All of that will eventually lead to Donald Trump cutting Israel out of the equation and releasing Israel and then saying Israel is the bad guy in this process. But it will take a lot for America to do that, especially Donald Trump. So far, the war has cost the U.S. taxpayer $1.9 billion. I know that it's higher than that, by the way. I think this is a very conservative estimate. $1.8 billion. I don't know if this actually factors in the damage from the radar facilities and the bases that have been blown up and cratered, but things are not looking too good. Apocalyptic vibes on the front page of the Washington Post. Trump says operation in Iran to last 4 to 5 weeks or far longer. U.S. pledges to send more troops as war widens. Yeah, this is costly, it's bloody, it's unacceptable, and it's being done at the behest of Israel, which actually offers a uniquely negative framing to the issue in the eyes of the American public, which is part of the reason why I think you're seeing a lot more Americans say, why the is this happening? Because Americans love war. There's always a little bit of rallying around the flag amongst the nationalist side in the United States of America. And there's obviously the MAGA cult that will scream for years and years about no more regime change wars and how bloody and costly that shit is and how stupid that shit is, and then vote for Trump because he's going to be the peace candidate. And then Donald Trump turns around and says, no, actually, war in Iran is good. Regime change war in Iran is good. I wanted it. That's America first. And then a bunch of dummies say, you're right. A bunch of dummies in the base will turn around and go, yes, Mr. President, I love that actually. I've decided I love that. The problem here is, for many Americans in the edges, for many Americans in the margins, even those in the MAGA movement, Donald Trump said he was going to do no new wars, and they believed it. So all of a sudden, they're going to be like, well, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? What do you mean? I wanted no new wars. Now you're doing a regime change war, and Americans are dying, and you're doing this for Israel. It's not looking too good. It's not looking too good for the base. It's not looking too good for the capitalists if the Strait of Hormuz is like successfully closed, which draws America into a naval battle with Iranian naval assets. We don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how relevant the Millennium Incident is. In 2002, there were war games very famously conducted. It cost $250 million to put together these war games to see what it would look like if the American naval assets fought the Iranian naval assets. and the American general that was supposed to be in charge of the Iranian side literally destroyed the American naval fleet over and over again, so much so that they had to literally change the rules, and they had to make sure that the Iranian side was not able to use certain tactics. So I don't know if they learned important lessons from that, but judging by current performance of the American Navy and the American military in general in the region, I don't know. So if this goes into naval conflict as well, Iran has like what, 30 assets, right? Total. America had, yeah, Millennium Challenge 2002. Everyone is going to talk about this in the upcoming days. Just, I don't know how important it is right now. I don't know how much it factors in to the current. I mean, technology has improved so much since then. So it's not necessarily a good benchmark. We'll see what happens. I'm just bringing it up to just so you understand that like America is aware that a naval battle with the Iranian Navy would not look as great for the American side as you would think. But it's been, you know, it's 2002 versus now, so who knows? But the Iranian side has also more complex tools as well, more sophisticated tools as well. Why don't we just let it happen? Why is this so bad? Wait, what? Why is it so bad? You said, isn't Iran bad? Why don't we just let it happen? Why is this so bad though? Wait, what? Okay, chatter. First and foremost, this good-bad dynamic, you got to let go of that, okay? These are nation states we're talking about. There are millions of people that live inside of these countries. Many of them have unique dreams, unique opinions. They have lives that are worthy of dignity. You know, these are sovereign states that we're talking about. That's number one. Number two, if we're looking at good-bad dynamics, I think America takes the cake regardless. You don't want to do that equation anyway. America and Israel are both significantly worse than most other countries by the widest of margins. But ultimately, it's bad because it also harms America. This is bad because it's bad for every reason that you can think of. It's bad because we're killing children. 100+ little girls were slaughtered at school in the first barrage of attacks. So that's not good. And number two, this is destroying America's, this is American expenditure that is utterly unnecessary. The entire region is now on fire. The global economy is going to take a massive hit with no real success in sight. A prolonged campaign against Iran could also produce a failed state with enriched uranium, destabilize crucial oil routes, threaten Gulf allies, trigger a refugee crisis, disrupt the global economy. There is a million different reasons why the worst case outcome, the outcome that Israel wants, by the way, is devastating for the entire planet. But because Israel is a fascist state, they have no problems engaging in an act of mass suicide. Killing the supreme leader was one thing. Ousting the regime will be another. That's why I keep repeating that the best case scenario for the entire planet right now is that the IRGC keeps things intact, and then America pulls out and they cut a favorable deal that cuts Israel out of the equation, at least for the time being, because Israel's going to come back again and again and again. And that eventually there's a guy that Trump trusts enough on the Iranian side where he will do ease of sanctions or whatever the negotiations process will be beneficial for both parties involved. That is the least bad option that's still not the best option, but it's the least bad option. The worst option is Israel gets to commit more American troops, boots on the ground military warfare, complete collapse of the Iranian government. 93 million people live there. The entire nation is swept away in ethnic conflict, sectarian fighting over and over again. And there's no more real state that exists there. And now you have incredibly angry IRGC guys that still control some of the munitions. They have no safeguards whatsoever. They have no restrictions whatsoever in how they deploy the weapons any longer. They can now directly strike civilian targets with no care or consideration, with no military goals whatsoever. And then tens of millions of people are displaced in the process as well. They go to all the other countries that then destabilize all the other countries as well. I mean, it's horrible. Now you got super ISIS, Omega ISIS basically, but this time it's not even ISIS. It's like the people who killed ISIS who have a lot better understanding of how to fight. I don't know where this goes. I mean, it would be completely devastating. The worst option also is like Israel deploys a mini nuke or something in Tehran because they realize that they're not going to win, and their munitions are running out, and instead of coming to a reasonable conclusion here, they just like try to deploy a mini nuke, and then the entire world is on fire from that point on. There's a lot of really, really bad options here, which is why, in comparison to all those really bad options, the one that is the best option is going to be America ends up incurring a lot of costs, and it's too costly politically at the domestic level for Donald Trump. His base starts yelling at him. American troops come back in flag-draped coffins. It becomes too big of an issue for him. And instead of leaning into a longer military quagmire, they pull out. And they pull out and they cut Israel out of the equation. Don't joke, bro. How likely is that nuclear hypothetical future? I mean, it's not very likely, but still an option, because again, Israel is suicidal. Israel's a fascist country, and fascism is a suicidal death cult. They have literally opened up new fronts every single day. They're now bombing Lebanon again. So do you think Israel has overstepped this time? Israel's been overstepping. The only difference is whether or not Trump recognizes that Israel's overstepping, and it's too costly for him because all of his billionaire friends start calling him and being like, dude, you need to cut this out. What the fuck are you doing? Trump is not a committed Zionist in the way that Biden was. Okay? If you say Netanyahu dragged the United States into war with Iran, that dishonest creep Jonathan Greenblatt will call you an anti-Semite. But here's the lead of the New York Times report on how Trump decided to go to war. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel walked into the Oval Office on the morning of February 11th, determined to keep the American president on the path to war. Also, Benjamin Netanyahu came out and literally said, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Donald Trump, for giving me my most important wish, my childhood dream of striking Iran yesterday. This is the reason why I get mad when motherfuckers in my chat too go, oh, well, don't you think it's like still, an unsinkable aircraft carrier? Yeah, we've moved past that point, okay? When new information presents itself, you have to factor that into your new analysis, right? At this point, especially this iteration of the conflict, if you think this is not Israel driving the American state into war, you're a little delusional. I'm sorry. Why does Israel get to do that? Is it because of Jewish hypnosis? No, of course not. A big part of that is the fact that they have a super sophisticated propaganda machine and have been able to exist inside of the American government despite being a foreign entity for 80 plus years as a consequence of being this incredibly important ally in the region, a destabilizing factor in the region. But post Barack Obama, it's very clear that Israel is in the driver's seat. That's it. This is Israel's war. This is not some Pat Buchanan shit. Okay, this is different than Iraq. This is different than all of the other previous wars that America has engaged in. And like I said, it's not some like organized Jewry or anything like that. It's not that at all. But if you think that Israel is not using Donald Trump like a cum sleeve here, you're delusional. I'm sorry.